emerged during 1st century AD on the territory of the Roman Empire at the same time as early Christianity, only to mysteriously disappear by 5th century. The cult of Mithras was spreading belief in universal savior god embodied in the figure of Romanized Persian god Mithra. This religion is often misinterpreted in mass media and even history books as a result of lack of written records left by its members and simple fact this cult was sort of competing religion with early Christianity. The oldest mention of Persian god Mithra dates back to the 14th century BC in Anatolia in present-day Turkey. Persians celebrated Mithra as the god of sun and the light who is in the constant war with darkness. This was the reason why scholars from the beginning of the 20th century thought Mithraism was just a cult of Persian Mithra brought to Rome by soldiers returning from the battles in the Middle East. However, there is a time gap of several centuries and no other direct links which would indicate continuity between Persian Mithra and Roman Mithraism. Also, by comparing the elements of the cult of Mithras and ancient Persian texts, it is obvious there is no direct correlation between those two. It is interesting that no single archaeological evidence of the cult of Mithras has been found anywhere outside of the Roman Empire. It is often claimed that Mithras was born on December 25th by a mother virgin and even that he had 12 disciples, exactly like Jesus Christ. Unfortunately for some, most of that is simply not true. For example, the fact he was born on December 25th can rather be understood in the context of rivalry between different religious groups in ancient Rome over an undisputedly important date of December 25th. It is true that Emperor Aurelian in the 3rd century AD declared this date as a holiday dedicated to Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun god, which is indeed related to Mithras, but other claims dominantly come from either questionable Christian texts from the 1st centuries AD or from 19th century writers who did not cite any source for their claims and were not even historians or scholars at all. It is true that both Christian and Mithras cult share the same characteristics of late Roman religions, but the claim they have the same foundation just don't hold water. For example, the fact that Mithras was born of a mother virgin is not true because there are a lot of sculptures and paintings depicting Mithras being born from a rock. It is not certain what kind of a myth is behind this scene, but it is certain that rock is impossible to be related to a virgin. The first scholar to systematically research this cult was Belgian archaeologist and historian from the end of 19th and beginning of the 20th century, Franz Cumon. He advocated the idea that Mithraism is directly linked with the Persian cult of Mithra, but this view has been abandoned with the progress of modern archaeology and history. Anyway, he was the first to explain similarities between Christianity and the cult of Mithras, and even defined Mithraism as a system of beliefs and practices which was all about saving the god, Mithras. This term practices is key here because Mithraism was not a religion literally speaking, because it did not have any written dogma or theology. It was rather about the practice and hierarchy, which is why Mithraism is in literature known and classified as a mystery cult. There are no written records left over by the worshippers of Mithras, and beside archaeology, the only we have are fragments of texts written mostly by few Christian authors such as Justin Martyr and Roman historians like Strabo and Porphyry, and all of them are vital for understanding of this cult. It is important to understand that Christian texts must be taken with extra caution because Christians of the first centuries were not looking at Mithraism enthusiastically. As an example, we can take the text of Christian apologist Justin Martyr, in which he claimed that members of this cult are, quote, wicked devils, who, quote, just imitate the most important Christian ritual, the Eucharist. However, other evidence that we have, such as sanctuaries, mosaics, inscriptions in stone, and representations in form of paintings or sculpture, are sufficient to provide us with the insight and basic understanding of this cult. Also, it is known that cult was popular among soldiers, but also wealthy men such as merchants and politicians, and there are examples of even slaves joining the cult. This might lead to a wrong conclusion this was an egalitarian cult, but in fact it was the opposite. It was some sort of keeper of existing hierarchies in Roman society, which meant, for example, slaves could never reach higher ranks within the cult. Even though the cult of Mithras was a mystery cult and the details of rituals were kept secret by its initiates and therefore unknown to us, this cult was far from being secret. We know this because many of Mithraic sanctuaries, in literature also known as Mithraea, have been found in public places and buildings. As an example, we can take Mithraea from the baths of Caracalla, a public bathhouse, or a Crypta Balbi, a large apartment complex, both located in Rome. The most usual representation in archaeological findings such as paintings and sculptures is the depiction of Mithras as a young god with curly hair caught in the act of slaying a bull, usually looking over his shoulder toward the depiction of the Sol Invictus. This scene is often complemented with a bunch of animals such as snake, dog, scorpion or raven, and usually even includes personifications of the sun and the moon. This image varies from one location to another because, as said, Mithraism did not have standardized teaching or dogma. Anyway, this might give us an insight into the system of beliefs of its members because all these representations might somehow be connected with astrology or astronomy. On the other hand, this is the claim which cannot be 100% confirmed due to lack of evidences, except for maybe some astrological depictions found in mosaics of zodiac signs in Mithra from the city of Ostia, an ancient harbor of Rome. What is certain is that this image represents some kind of a foundational story in Mithraic mythology. Possibly, if compared to some other Eastern mythologies, this scene of a ritual killing of a bull might be interpreted as the depiction of the creation of the universe, but this might be discussed in some other video. In terms of organizational structure and hierarchy of the cult, we can speak in terms of initiates. When say initiates, I mean literally that, because Mithraism was an initiation cult, meaning that in order to join the cult and get promoted, you had to go through a series of rituals or initiations. It is almost certain there were 7 different grades in this cult. How do we know? Well, except for some written records such as texts of Christian writer Saint Jerome, there was a mosaic found in Ostia possibly representing 7 initiations, one after another, each showing the symbols linked to a raven, a nymph, a soldier, a lion, Persian, a runner of the sun or heliodrome, and a father. If you want more details on the meaning of these grades, let me know in the comments below and I will maybe dedicate another video on that topic. Let's now go back to our main discussion. In total, around 45 Mithraea have been discovered on the territory of the former Roman Empire. They all tend to have similar structure, narrow rectangular meeting rooms with long benches on both sides, the central nave, the image of Mithras stabbing the bull on the far end, and also most of them were built slightly underground to provide a sense of cave-like environment. The size of Mithraea varies, but most of them are small, approximately 10 to 15 meters long, suitable to host 20 or 30 members of the cult. These benches were used by the initiates to perform the ritual of the communal dining. Although this ritualized communal dining had a very special role in the cult of Mithras, this actually was a classical feature of all 8 Roman religions. Example for this is Christian Eucharist, the act of unification with God which is achieved by ritual consuming of the bread and wine. At several Mithraea throughout Europe and Middle East, a large quantity of burned remains of animal bones, seeds, fruits and vegetables has been found hidden in a special stone container underneath the floor of the sanctuary. This is interpreted as some kind of offer to God or special bond with Him, and it definitely indicates the significance of communal dining in this cult. With this in regard, the conclusion of archaeologists was that members of the cult met before the sanctuary was built, ritually performed a dinner with God, put the remains into a special container, buried underneath the ground, and only after that they built a temple. So the temple was literally and metaphorically built on that dinner as some kind of a foundation. Maybe the best known example of this kind of hidden box with burned remains of food is found in Mithraea from the Romanian city of Alba Iulia, where are located the remains of Apulum, the ancient city in the Roman province of Dacia. This location was explored in high detail by an international team of archaeologists from 2013 to 2017, led by Matthew McCarthy, assistant professor of Roman archaeology at the University of British Columbia. I kindly recommend the online lecture hosted by Matthew for more details about this project. This lecture helped me a lot during the research for this video. So far, we explained some basic features of the cult of Mithras and its relation with Christianity. We showed the famous representation of Mithras as a bull slayer, went through some material remains of this cult such as sanctuaries, sculptures and paintings, and also talked about the importance of the rite of communal dining. Now, it is time for the final question. How did the cult of Mithras suddenly and without any explanation vanish by 5th century? Well, it has been noticed that during the 4th century more and more Mithraea are being abandoned and only few new ones are built. There are many theories about why this decline happened, but as the most relevant one seems the theory of archaeologist David Walsh, who thinks there must have been several different factors responsible for this decline. First, during the 4th century, Christianity became dominant and even official religion of the empire, which meant it got the support from the government and administration employees, which had a negative influence on the cult of Mithras since most of its members came from this specific social category. This also might have led to some Christian vandalism. For example, in Mithraea found in Syrian village of Hawarti, there were found some Christian graffiti scratched on the walls and the remains of Christian church which was built on top of the Mithraea. Occasionally, some other examples of possible religious vandalism have been found, such as defaced and damaged Mithraic images and sculptures, but this was not universal universal case. Second, some of members of the cult most likely have been voluntarily converted into Christianity as a result of rising popularity of this religion. The third possible reason might be the fact that worshipping a Persian god during the time when Roman Empire was at war with Persia was not a good idea. Another reason, which at least should not be ignored, is the fact that many Mithraea were located on the borders of the empire or in nearby areas. In that sense, throughout the 4th century, constant invasions of barbarian tribes were taking place, and some of Mithraea might have been destroyed during these attacks. Eventually, it might also be the case that people eventually just lost the interest in the cult. This conclusion is due to the fact that many Mithraea has been found intact with no signs of actual damage, which indicates that people have just peacefully abandoned the site. Whatever was the case, the cult of Mithras remains the most interesting religion that existed on soil of old Europe, and it will continue to intrigate people's imagination and to inspire numerous theories on what was happening behind the scenes. In the end, of course, if you like the video, don't forget to click on the like and share buttons. Also, if you want more videos on unjustifiably neglected topics, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.